Welcome to Nutanix Sales Strategy and Competitive Differentiation. In part 3, we're going to take a look at some tactical examples of how to properly transition from that discovery into having meaningful conversations with customers where we can fully articulate how we've taken a unique approach to solving their data center pain and land competitive differentiation against others that can't.
So upon completion of this session, you will know how to use what-if statements to position what life would be like with Nutanix in your data center, know how to set traps for our competition, and understand how to utilize this process to set up the next sets of meetings with your customer. All right, so let's take a look at the similar scenario, but from a logical or economic buyer perspective. All right, so from their perspective, this infrastructure complexity becomes a people problem. They don't have enough people to deal with it. And there's also just too many different vendors to manage. And then there's also the issue of this aging storage in the branch offices that's has ever increasing maintenance costs. And so again, if we think about how we want to address this, we can talk about operational simplicity, but that may not necessarily be the right message to land with this logical or economic buyer. Again, he's not the person that's having to go through and deal with that complexity. We can talk about files, objects, and blocks. That's a great way for him to be able to go through and do true storage consolidation and potentially allow him to consolidate and get rid of some of that aging storage with the higher maintenance costs. And again, from a lifecycle management perspective, there's some value there as well. So let's take a look at operational simplicity from a logical or economic buyer perspective. And so we want to take a slightly different what-if statement. And so maybe our what-if statement is now, what if you no longer required specialized expertise to manage all those different storage arrays? So he doesn't have to go out and hire people to replace somebody to manage a specific point storage solution. He can hire generalists or use the existing IT staff that he has right now in order to manage a much simpler system. You can talk about how Nutanix consolidates all the different tools and that Nutanix is very easy to learn, doesn't require specialized resources or expertise, and that many of our customers support Nutanix with only a few people, which frees up a lot of their more senior folks to focus in on higher value projects. That's the kind of message that you want to land with this logical or economic buyer. And then, of course, you can kind of lay a trap now for vSAN VxRail. Did the other vendors reduce this complexity, or are they still required larger teams of specialized resources? Kind of plant that seed there. All right, let's take a look at things from a lifecycle management perspective. And so your what-if statement might be, what if your team never had to spend time planning data migrations in order to retire old infrastructure with costly maintenance contracts? Let me tell you about how our platform is the only one that enables you to add the latest technology and retire aging systems without creating any silos or having to migrate any data again. And then what other projects could your team be working on if they no longer had to worry about this? So you want to be able to go through and land the fact that your conversations that you're having with business owners now fundamentally change because we're not having to go and negotiate outage windows to do upgrade stuff. We're able to seamlessly go through and update infrastructure and deal with business issues in a way that's completely non-impactful to that business. And these are the types of things that are going to resonate with that logical or economic buyer who's currently has a lot of pain around, the business owners wanting him and his team to address this in an effective way. And so when we look at kind of the result of this, we kind of address the too many storage vendors, too much complexity, not enough people and forced to do more with less, no budget for increased headcount, and then aging storage maintenance contracts are expensive. And so in the next set of conversations that you have with a logical buyer, he may not want to see demos of Prism and all that kind of stuff, but we can definitely go in and now maybe engage Steve Kaplan's team and do a TCO ROI analysis where we can prove the economic impact and the benefit of moving Nutanix compared to what they're doing today, and even compared to the other options that they're looking at. And this is also a great opportunity to get that logical or economic buyer talking to one of our great customer references so that that customer can support the messaging and the claims that we're making around this. And it becomes much more powerful than us just trying to sell them on that. From a logical buyer perspective, in addition to things like TCO ROI analysis, we've got supporting documentation like Gartner MQs and IDC white papers. From a demo perspective, there are some demos that might be actually useful for a logical or economic buyer. You might be able to give him a demo on how he can utilize a read-only view of Prism Pro and actually have visibility into the runway on his clusters. So if he wants to be able to know at what point in time does that cluster run out of capacity, he actually will have visibility into doing that himself. He doesn't have to bug his staff to be able to go do that. So that may be a compelling demo that you want to show him. The other interesting thing is as he tries to deal with some of the, do I move things to the cloud? Does the cloud make sense for me? A Beam demo that allows him to see that we're able to do costing and be able to show the unique cost of publishing on-premise on a Nutanix environment versus publishing in the cloud or multiple clouds. And that gives him visibility into trying to develop his strategy in terms of what makes sense and what's more cost effective in the cloud versus what needs to remain on-prem. And so that Beam demo becomes very powerful and is a great tool for him as well. So that concludes this session. Hopefully you've learned how to go through and take the discovery that we've had and be able to have a much more meaningful and engaged conversation with a customer where we're actually talking about how we're uniquely solving their pain rather than what we can sell them. And if you do this successfully, you're going to set yourself up for the ability to go in and sell our products, sell our capabilities and services within the platform at a much higher premium, and at a premium that is not going to shock that customer because they see us very, very differently. They don't see us as somebody that's fulfilling requirements. They see us as somebody that's uniquely solving their pain, making their lives easier, and actually solving the issues that they have today in their data center.